Welcome to today's webinar, Internet Security and Virtual Transactions with zipForms Plus. This webinar will be presented to you by Josh Scharfman, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for CAR, and Jackson Baudelaire, zipForms Product Coordinator, also for CAR. I'd like to remind you to visit www.nsdcar.com/webinars on a regular basis as new webinars are continuously being added. We don't want you to miss out. Also, if you'd like to know what's going on at the Department of Real Estate, make sure to register for tomorrow's webinar, DRE Updates during COVID-19. Now for the great duo, Josh and Jackson.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad that you could join me and join Jackson. We are going to share with you a number of very practical and actionable data security tips that are accessible to you both inside and outside of zipForm. What I hope to speak about are three things. One are trends and security and internet trends in our present COVID-19 world. I think it helps to frame and set the stage. We'll then take a look at how we can prevent man-in-the-middle exploits as it relates to your internet interactions. And then I'm going to pass the baton over to Jackson, who's going to address how to prevent the man-in-the-middle exploits via email using the tools and capabilities that are part of your zipForm member benefit. If we have time at the very end, we'll talk about antidotes to ransomware, and if not, this will be an opportunity to invite us back again sometime in the future. So without any delay, let's move on forward. I won't read slides to you. You're perfectly capable of reading the slides, but I will tell you in short that COVID-19 has created a number of changes in the way the internet is being used today. And one of the key results and undesirable outcomes from that behavior is that there's been a dramatic increase in cyber threats. Let's take a look at what is changing. Aside from the obvious that overall internet utilization is up because people are using it for entertainment, they are using it for schooling, they're using it for work, what we're seeing is a dramatic change in the usage pattern, and we're seeing that city centers, which used to be, at least during business hours, a core center of internet usage, disappeared. So let's take a look at a couple of the trends. Very early on, you might remember that in March, Italy showed the first dramatic outbreaks of the COVID-19 novel coronavirus. And we saw internet usage increase over just a 2-week span by about 40%. All of these slides, by the way, that I'm showing you, and the data from the internet is gathered by Cloudflare. Cloudflare proxies about 25% of all internet traffic in the world. In Los Angeles, we're seeing a hollowing out of the city center, and these charts were taken with April data. The green areas shows increases in internet usage. The red areas show decreases. So what you're seeing is that in the city centers near downtown LA and near the center of commerce in Orange County, we're seeing red areas, red indicating that there's been a dramatic decrease in internet usage. And where do we see the increases? We see the increases where people live. Intuitively, that makes sense. By the way, since April, the increases in Los Angeles have now exceeded 45%. New York, what would you expect? You'd expect a red dot around Manhattan. And what do we see? What we see is green in the outlying areas and almost directly correlated with the commuting distance from Manhattan. We see the same thing in Washington, D.C. And this is consistent across metro areas in the United States. What was really interesting is that university traffic just plummeted in March of this year when the university sent their students home. And what did we see in relationship to that, oh my gosh, we saw a dramatic increase in cyber threat exploits that were taking place. And that correlation is so strong that you can't deny the likely explanation that many students had a lot of time on their hands and they went and downloaded hacking tools and tried to apply them to see what they could find. Fortunately, the readily available hacking tools are well known and there are great preventions for them, but it's still quite annoying, and we saw a dramatic increase in the percentage of the different types of attacks that were taking place. The variation in load was incredible. Some services up by 100, 200%, some plummeted. And as you might expect, the changes were dramatic, say, in the case of sports. You know, when the NBA shut down, boom, that was gone. Entertainment, and especially children's entertainment, spiked. What was really interesting, and this is something that is worthwhile knowing, is that the core internet was not having any problems with the traffic. And where were the problems typically? It was the bottleneck in the last mile and how the internet service provider delivered the traffic from the pole, so to speak, to your home. But the core internet, the internet that services the intercity and intercountry communications, plenty of bandwidth. What it does very, very resilient. Some other observations: phishing attempts increasing, mobile traffic way down. Why? Because people are not out and about. They're using their local internet at home, and even their mobile devices are connecting to their Wi-Fi at home rather than using the mobile internet. Now, shifting a little bit away from our discussion of what has changed recently, we'll take a look at what McKinsey & Company is recommending for security tactics in a COVID-19 world. These are some of the actionable things that you can do, and we're going to focus on some of them today. Number one is if you have the ability to enable multi-factor authentication. It's a feature in zipForm. It's a feature that your online banking institutions provide. Your email service provider should provide multi-factor authentication. While it can be considered a pain in the butt to have to enter a code, it is an outstanding way of thwarting malicious attacks and account takeovers. Being diligent in patching and updating your systems and installing security updates for your operating systems at home is a really, really important thing to be aware of. Maintaining awareness and maintaining your situational awareness, that especially when there are current events that can then be present in subject lines of very tempting emails that have lots of links to click on. Maintaining your situational awareness is something that is really useful to do. And today we're going to communicate on what to do as opposed to what not to do. And we're going to focus on virtual private networks and in particular answer the question, why bother with that? And why bother using a VPN? So I tried to deliver a wake-up call, and I did this over a number of years. I told the story of a case study. And this was a case study of the Republican National Convention in 2016 that took place in Cleveland. And a very reputable company named Avast that is in the business of creating security tools, and you might be familiar with them because they create and publish antivirus protection tools. They did something interesting. They stood up a free Wi-Fi hotspot, and when they did so without any encryption or any passwords. Security was just free Wi-Fi. Please connect to our free Wi-Fi. And in fact, people did. 1,000 people connected to that free Wi-Fi, and the message was, hey people, you have to be more careful than that. You really should be using a virtual private network because your connection is not encrypted when you're using this public Wi-Fi hotspot. I was not successful at all at communicating that message. So I tried a different wake-up call. And this is a case study of a case that took place about 9 months ago or so. And where were we? We were at Reimagine in downtown Los Angeles. And I was asked to speak to a group of association executives and their presidents. And they started meeting at 7 in the morning, and I brought with me a Wi-Fi pineapple. What is a Wi-Fi pineapple? It's a very, very small device. It looks like this. This is the device that I have. And what it does is it allows someone to create a Wi-Fi hotspot that appears to everyone else as if it were the general Wi-Fi hotspot. It rebroadcasts the SSID. And when someone connects to that hotspot, they're not connected to the hotel or to the venue. They're connected to me, or they're connected to the hacker. I was wearing a white hat. I was an ethical hacker trying to make a point. And then after they connected to me, I connect them to the internet. By the way, this is really inexpensive. For all $90, anyone can buy such a device. So what did I do? We were at the GW Marriott and at the Ritz-Carlton. So I rebroadcast that SSID. So an unsuspecting user who thought that they were connecting to the hotel Wi-Fi were really connected to the fake access point that I put up. And I then connected them to the internet. I did not peek at any of the information that they were transmitting. But here's what happened. After 2 minutes, there were 7 people connected. And I obfuscated the names of the people that were connected, but they were very, very, how shall I say, reckless. Reckless in the sense that the SSID I was broadcasting Best Buy. There were no Best Buys anywhere near us, but people connected. Starbucks, CAR Expo, that was an interesting one, and Washington Dulles Wi-Fi. Why someone would connect to a Washington Dulles Wi-Fi hotspot when they're in downtown Los Angeles is beyond me, but they did. Well, time continued. After 4 minutes, I had 9 people connected. I was broadcasting 87 different SSIDs. 7 minutes, 12 people connected. 10 minutes, 20 people connected. 26. And now lots of people were connecting to the bogus JW Marriott hotspot, Xfinity. Some thought they were connected at Macy's. Well, time went on, and remember, this is now about 7:30 in the morning while people are eating breakfast. 31 connections. After 27 minutes, 41 connections, 43 connections. It's now 20 minutes to 8. So I have to turn this off because I have to get ready to speak. So 43 connections, 20 minutes to 8. It's 45 connections. Oh my gosh. I got up to speak and I showed people this live information that they connected to this bogus hotspot. They were not really aware. So how do you use a publicly available hotspot when you're at a coffee shop, or you're at an airport, or you're at a public place? And I presume that with time, we will all be able to enjoy being in public places safely again. How do we connect to those Wi-Fi hotspots? We want to avoid the man-in-the-middle attack or the man-in-the-middle exploit, which is what I demonstrated. Well, the way that we can do that and to ensure that we always have an encrypted connection between our computer and the internet and where we want to go is to use a virtual private network. And let me describe what a virtual private network does. What it does is it creates an encrypted connection between you and the virtual private network provider. And then the virtual private network provider, the VPN provider, proxies your traffic to the internet. And by doing so, even if someone were to eavesdrop on this encrypted connection, all they would see would be gobbledygook, and the integrity and privacy of what you are transmitting, even if you are traversing a fake Wi-Fi hotspot, is protected. And I use a VPN connection every time I am accessing the internet in a public place or outside of the CAR office or outside of my home, where I have confidence in the security of those networks. Another way of describing this in this graphical representation is that you on your computer on the left create a private connection between the VPN provider on the right, and they in turn connect you to the various different websites that you wish to connect to. So I hear you say, oh, boy, I'm dealing with customer information or client information. I have loan applications that are going across my internet connection. I really should be using a VPN. I want it and I want it now. What do you recommend, Josh? There are two vendors that I recommend for the following reason. They're inexpensive. They have outstanding reputations, and they do not throttle your bandwidth. They do not restrict how much information you can send back and forth. OpenVPN is one such subscription service, relatively inexpensive, a couple bucks a month for up to 3 different devices. Or NordVPN is another good solution. And here are the URLs to nordvpn.com and openvpn.net. I have used both of them. I never make a recommendation for a solution that I have not used personally. And there are some virus protection solutions that actually have a built-in VPN already that you may already have, and you might not be aware of it. Avast and Norton are two such examples. And if you subscribe to Avast or Norton, you might want to check to see if you actually have a VPN service already built into your subscription. So in conclusion, I am recommending that you use a VPN when you connect to public networks through free Wi-Fi connections, whether it's at a hotel, coffee shop, malls, theaters, public places, when we have the privilege of being able to go back to them. And no, there's nothing wrong with my font here. There's nothing wrong with your screen. This is an interesting font. It is called Sans Forgetica. And Sans Forgetica is a font that was engineered by cognitive psychologists at a university in New Zealand, where they conducted research, in Australia, just next door to New Zealand. And they conducted research that concluded that when you have to work a little bit harder to read something, your ability to retain the information is increased dramatically. So the Sans Forgetica font is readable. You have to do a little bit more work to read it, but in fact, I'm hoping that you will indeed remember the message to use a VPN to thwart the internet website man-in-the-middle exploits. There are a couple, NordVPN and OpenVPN, that are reasonable solutions. Now, what we're going to do is transition, but maintain the same focus. We've talked about the man-in-the-middle exploit as it relates to visiting websites. What Jackson, my friend and colleague, is going to address is how do we deal with the man-in-the-middle exploit when we are transporting information through email. Email, I have to tell you, is not secure. I caution you in your use of email, and thus Jackson is going to take over now and give you insights into how you can use your zipForm member benefit to address the email man-in-the-middle exploits and avoid them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Jackson can. And while he is speaking, I will be sure to answer any questions that come up in chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. That was very informative. I know that I've been at CAR. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Jackson. I am a zipForm product coordinator at CAR. I was a realtor myself for about 10 years. I know that there are so many more problems with men in the middle nowadays. When I was in real estate for the first couple of years, we didn't have these wire problems with wiring your earnest money and things like that. That became more and more apparent in the about halfway through my tenure as a realtor, and it's even more of an issue today. Today we're going to be talking about how to conduct your transaction virtually and allow your clients to use the secure encrypted methods of sharing sensitive data with you. And to do that, we're going to be using what's called Zip Community. It is a part of your member benefit zipForm Plus account. We're going to go through starting a new transaction, assuming that this is a client that I've worked with before. I'm going to start by creating a new transaction. This is going to be for a purchase. Now, I am going to use MLS Connect. I'm going to make sure that I have my MLS ID. Again, MLS Connect is also a member benefit. So I'm going to use MLS Connect to pull in this beautiful house in Vista, California. I'm going to use the address as the name of the, let's just call it Hillside Terrace. Now I have a purchase template that I've applied to this transaction. I have this set to automatically apply. This purchase template has an RPA, a cover sheet, a finance worksheet, and also a summary of RPA. But it has a couple other things in there as well. I've used placeholders, which are visual reminders of things that I want to add at a later date. We can see on the Documents tab here, I have these two null empty spots. Now, the proof of funds and the pre-approval are two things that I'm going to need prior to submitting my offer. The proof of funds being a bank statement. This is sensitive data. Your clients should redact their account numbers if at all possible. Sometimes they don't have the tech savviness to do that. Maybe they don't have a scanner. They're pulling a PDF off of the internet from their banking website. And you need to, as their realtor, as their partner in this transaction, you need to give them a secure way to share this information with you. Now, I have so far myself as the selling agent, and I have Robert James as the listing agent, but I need to add my buyer. So to add my buyer, I'm going to use the address book, because again, this is a client that I've worked with before. I'm going to use my ZipLogic contacts, and it's going to be my good friend, Ricardo Mendonca. So I have all of Ricardo's information in here. Now, I want to invite my client to the transaction. There's a couple different ways that we can do this. From the transaction party window that we have here, we have a button that says invite to the transaction. Now, we haven't really done anything in this transaction yet, but I want to establish that secure connection right off the bat. So I'm going to invite my client to this transaction. As soon as I click save, it's going to ask me, what do we want to share and what do we want to allow our clients to do with this share? So at this point, I don't want my clients to be able to edit anything, but I do want them to be able to upload. So I'm going to give them the ability to upload documents. This is going to be a secure, encrypted method of allowing your clients to upload documents directly into your transaction. You're giving them a permission-based portal into the actual transaction folder that's in your Zip account. You are collaborating with your client. By default, it's going to be a 30-day share. I will choose when to turn off the share. Maybe I want to leave it up for a certain period of time after the transaction. If the client needs to get documents from the transaction, I can share pertinent documents with them. So for now, I'm going to share the RPA. Maybe my client wants to take a look at the RPA as we're drafting it prior to signing it. And there's another reason I'm doing this as well that we'll see in a minute. So I'm going to click Save and Send. This is going to give me a form email that we can actually add some more text here. So it's going to say that Jackson, I'm inviting my client to collaborate on the documents for this property. So I'm going to say, please, if I can type today, please upload your proof of funds and your pre-approval. So this is going to go to my client in the form of an email. Nothing else in this email besides just this collaboration invitation. So Ricardo is going to receive this email letting him know that Jackson, his agent, is sharing documents. Now, when he clicks View Documents, it's going to bring them into Zip Community. They have a couple options here to sign in or create their own account. If they want to sign in with Facebook or with Google, as if Cambridge Analytica didn't teach them anything, they can do that. If they haven't ever signed into this before, they can create an account. Now, because they clicked on the link in the email that we sent them, it already knows their name, it knows their role, it's going to suggest a username, it already knows their email. So really all they need to do is create a password and they're done. In this case, our client has used this service before, so we're going to sign in as Ricky Rick. Now, Zip Community has come a long way since it was first introduced. I always saw the value in it. The user interface has just gotten a lot better. Our client, as you see here, we have a timeline of the transaction dates. We haven't put anything in there yet, but because we used MLS Connect, we have the listing date for the property. Our client has the ability to send us an email directly from here. If they are on their phone or if they're on a computer, like I'm on a Mac right now, if they have FaceTime, if they have Skype, if they have a way to a VoIP service, they can call you directly from here. They have a direct link to the documents that we've shared with them. They can send us a secure message from here. If we click on the documents, we see that RPA. This RPA, again, is not editable. It's just going to be a PDF preview of the RPA that's in our transaction file. Now we have our client in there. We added our client. We added ourselves. I had a couple check boxes that came in with my template. So this is a pretty bare bones RPA so far, but our client can look at it. They can see, they can read through it, read the different paragraphs in there, so that when we do send it for signature, they've already had the ability to review it. And that's important because, as you know, a lot of your clients are just click through the signature process. We want them to read the contract. They should be reading the contract. We hope they're reading the contract. But more importantly, we have this Add Document button up here. So our Add Document button is going to allow them to browse their computer for a document, or they can pull something in from one of the supported cloud services. So in this case, our client is going to browse for, where's my purchase docs? There's my proof of funds. Now they're going to upload that. Let's just say this is a bank statement for kind of mid-June. So let's just say this is for May 2020. So that PDF is going to go right there. If we go back to our transaction, now we're on the agent side. There's our bank statement. That fast. Because they have permission-based access into our transaction. We're working out of the same folder. Okay? Now I can take this bank statement, and I have a couple different ways that I can fill this placeholder. I can click and drag right onto the placeholder, and that will fill it. Or I can click right on the placeholder, and it'll ask me if I want to fill it with an existing, browse for a document. See, these are the same options that our client had. Okay. Back in our share, I want to also, my client is also going to upload their pre-approval. So they're going to grab their pre-approval. Pre-app from lender. So we filled our placeholder, so that bank statement's going to go away from the share because we manipulated it in our transaction. That pre-app from the lender, click our little refresh button. There's our pre-approval. Now our client had their bank statement and their pre-approval on their device, on their computer. It didn't go through email. They put it directly from their computer into our transaction. Secure and encrypted. These are good things that you should be using, okay? So that's just the start of it. Now our clients have the ability to collaborate with us on this transaction. So now that we have shared that RPA, our client opened up that RPA. If we go to the history tab of our transaction, we now have immutable proof that our client has reviewed that RPA at 10:28 a.m. on the 23rd of June. If they say, well, I never saw it, I didn't read it, I didn't get a chance to review it before I signed it, well, you did. You saw it. I have proof here that you opened it prior to me sending it for signature. So that's one of the fail-safes of this system. This history tab has a lot of information. There are 180 different events or so that happen inside of Zip that will trigger a journal entry in this history. This history also shows up on your dashboard on the recent activity. The recent activity goes back very far. It will show everything that our client did. It will show everything that we did. This, as you can see, goes back about a week. If I click on this see more, this goes all the way back to the end of March. There's a lot of data inside of your transactions, and you should definitely keep that data secure and make sure that your clients are covered. So let's go back into our transaction here. Now I want to, let's fill out the RPA a little bit, just to fill in the details here. Let's see if we have, looks like we're not using the Q&A. So I guess, are people using the chat? Let's check our chat while this is loading a little bit. Okay. So Janice is asking, where do we find that in Zip? So let's go over that a little bit before we get too far into the RPA. So our client, we shared the transaction from the Parties tab, okay? If you see this, let's use these annotation tools to make this a little easier. So if we see all of these parties have these little share tools, but this one is blue because there's an active share going on, okay? This lets us know we can start our share directly from this Parties tab. We also have the ability to start a share from this share button here. We are, I think, on the, what tab is it on? The Documents tab? Yes, we have the Documents tab has its own share button as well. There's lots of places in here that we can start a share. I hope that answers your question here. Where do we go to that to find Zip? Okay. So clients are able to download the documents that are in the share. So if our client wanted to open this up, open up that RPA, they can print it, they can download it. They have options to get their own copy of it. But again, they don't have the option to edit things. Okay, perfect. So let's flesh out our RPA a little bit before we get too far into this. So I can show you some other tools in here. So my template had a couple checkboxes that were filled in. I had some information like I'm going to probably be representing only the buyer generally. I put 30 days in as a default. The license numbers were brought in from MLS Connect. But then I get down to my initial deposit here. Now, I haven't put a price in. Let's, this was listed at what, $479. Okay, so maybe this is an aggressive offer. We're gonna do $492, $250. It's a very aggressive and precise offer. Now, for the initial deposit, I like to do 3%. I don't know about you. In practice, I like to use 3%. I also don't like to do math if I don't have to. So that's why I have the RPA financing worksheet, or the RPAWS form, the RPAWS. I highly recommend that you use this RPAWS form in your transactions when you're filling out the RPA. So the RPAWS form, if we open that up, has our price. It has check boxes to select 3%. I'm not doing an additional deposit, but I am going to have 25% down with a 75% loan. And this is going to fill those details in automatically. And these are going to go right back to the RPA. It's going to fill in that RPA with the information that we just calculated on our finance worksheet. So maybe our client calls us and says, you know what? I really want this house. I want to bump my offer up. Rather than changing the price here, we're going to change it on the finance worksheet. So maybe they want to go up to $499. That's going to adjust our loan amount and our initial deposit automatically. This is a finance worksheet. So this is not something that you're going to send for signature. It's not something that you're going to send with your offer. This is purely to help you structure the RPA with good numbers, less than round numbers, I should say, because these are very exact, not to the cent, but to the dollar. So that's the RPA financing worksheet. I highly recommend that you use that. So back in our RPA, now that we have, let's just assume that we've filled out our offer. We want to get this signed by our client. Our client still has access to the RPA in its current form. When they open up that RPA, it's going to have all that information that we just put into it seconds ago, because again, our client is working off of the exact same copy of the document. They're just seeing a read-only copy of it. So if we go in here, we see that our deposit's here, we see that our loan amount is here. So our client is collaborating with us. Again, our client has the ability to see everything that we're doing on this form. So let's jump ahead. Let's say that our client is now has gotten their offer accepted. Okay. Now that our offer has gotten accepted, we want our client to fill out the buyer inspection elections. Okay. So the BIE form is a disclosure. We have access to change the address, but we do not have access to edit this. It's only editable by buyer one. And you ask yourself, well, how do I allow my client to do that? We use Zip Community. We're going to use the sharing tools to allow our client to edit this form. So I'm going to click on the share button. I'm going to remove the RPA. I'm going to add a document here. I'm going to grab the buyer inspection election. I'm going to save because I need to edit the share. And again, I can also change these sharing parameters from the little share button here. So I have my BIE form is being shared. I want to allow my client to edit. And I'm going to save and send them another email. So our client's going to receive another email, because obviously this isn't all happening in 20 minutes. It's going to be happening over the course of a couple days. Now, when they sign in, Mr. Ricky Rick is going to sign in here. And now they have access to that BIE form. But when they open it up now, it's going to open up, looks very similar to our zipForm account. We have the ability to check those boxes. We can highlight things if we want. It's not just a PDF preview. So our client can fill things out. Let's just fill this out real quick. They don't really want that many inspections. They really like this house. So we'll check all these boxes. So a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, I use digital ink, I use DocuSign. That allows the client to fill this out. And that's all well and good. It does. I know it does. But what's going to happen? Your client is probably going to fill it out wrong. That's just the nature of things. They're probably going to fill it out incompletely. So when you're filling out the TDS, when your client's filling out the SPQ, the exempt seller disclosures, the BIE form, if you're working with a tenant and they're filling out the rental application, all of this is called role-based form filling. So because Ricardo is buyer one, he can fill out this form. Because again, when we opened up our BIE form, those boxes are only editable by buyer one. Not buyer two, not buyer three, not buyer four, buyer one. In the case of a listing, seller one can fill out the disclosures. The one caveat there is that with the rental application, tenant one, tenant two, tenant three, tenant four, they can fill out their own rental applications, which is helpful because a lot of times there's multiple renters applying for one unit, okay? So now that we've opened up our BIE form, I know it's hard to see, so we're going to preview this. We see now that all those checkboxes are there. So we're separating the steps of filling it out and signing it. We're not doing this in digital signature set. They haven't signed it yet. They've simply filled it out. We're collaborating on this form. And the reason why this is so helpful is because as the agent, you're able to review this. Make sure it's complete, make sure it's the way that it should be filled out, not giving your client legal advice per se, but looking out for them. I can already see here that this client, I know that this client wanted to get a termite inspection, but they must have gotten a little confused when they're filling it out. They said no to the wood destroying pests. And I go back to my client and I say, hey, I remember you did want a termite inspection. They say, oh, you know what, I did. Can I change that? Yeah, of course you can change that. They're going to go back in. They're going to make that into a yes. They're going to click save. And just like that, just that fast in our transaction, that no became a yes. So again, none of this is going through email so far. They've gotten collaboration invitations that are password protected. When they use these links, they have to sign in with a username and a password. So if there was an interception of these emails, they wouldn't be able to get in. So back in our transaction, we have our BIE form. This is ready for us to send for signature. Now that we've verified that this is complete and it's ready for signature, we can send it for signature. Let's see. I think that's the real bulk of some of this secure usage of Zip Community. Josh, did you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
Well, just one thing that I think is worth adding and reinforcing, because you did mention it. The basic value points or the basic advantages of using the community as opposed to sending things back and forth via email are the following, and let's enumerate them. One, you don't have to worry about interceptions. That's number one. Number two, you don't have to worry about the client's email system rejecting large attachments because there's no more room left in their email inbox in order to store or receive the files. It's a second advantage. Third, imagine the level of transparency that you are able to offer your clients and engage them, at least those who want to be so engaged, in the transaction process itself. And it demystifies a lot of perhaps what you are doing, not to, how should I say, eliminate the value you provide, but rather they see what is happening and how they are engaged. And rather than phone calls, you've made them a little bit independent and self-sufficient by involving them in the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Third, we talked about the man-in-the-middle exploits being thwarted with email. And lastly, and I don't want to underestimate the value of this, the audit trail. The ability for you to, in the course of the transaction, see how much or how little your client has been engaged. And after the transaction closes, and perhaps if a dispute arises and there is an assertion that is made that is not a valid assertion, you have evidence that has been collected, and the folks at zipForm made absolutely sure that there's no way that you can change any of the information in the audit trail. It is an immutable audit trail and makes for fantastic evidence that shows, well, what do you mean you never received this? Here, it was made available to you and you looked at it 7 times. And here are the dates when you looked at it. That's some of the advantages you get in using the community, as opposed to simply slinging documents back and forth using email. And Tom asked the question, is the community free with zipForm? Absolutely, it is a native component of zipForm. The $5 transaction fee, I'm not particularly...
I know what they're talking about, Josh. The
signature.
The signatures, the cybersecurity protection is $5 per transaction. That's separate from Zip Community.
Okay, and what that does, just to help elucidate that further, is that additional security feature is adding multi-factor authentication to access to the signature process by virtue of sending SMS one-time codes from the signature solution. And we talked about multi-factor authentication. You can turn on multi-factor authentication in your zipForm. It's included as a feature of the product simply by going to, and maybe Jackson can show this as we go. If you go to Me and Profile and Settings, I believe there is a security option. And once you are there, you can, in fact, enable two-factor authentication, and you would provide your email address and ideally your mobile phone number, where you would either receive an email with this one-time security code, or you would receive an SMS text message with your security code. And this is an outstanding way for you to have the same level of confidence in the security of zipForm as you do in your personal banking institution.
Thanks, Josh. So that's my end of the presentation.
Terrific. So I wonder if there are any other questions that Jackson and I might be able to address this morning. And if not, I want to wish all of you continued health and safety. Use the tools to deliver outstanding value to your clients. And as always, we appreciate your membership in CAR. I will put up, just very briefly, give me a moment, our contact information should you ever need to or have a desire to reach out to either me or Jackson. And I'm just finding that initial slide. And I will share that with all of you. And here it is.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar today. I am going to take a look at the chat to see if there are any more questions that might have come in that we can address. Okay, Rachel asks a question. I noticed that when we send an email to the client, it was Facebook email or Google email. I'm a little confused with that. The email comes from zipForm on your behalf.
So I think they were referring to the sign-in options. So there are.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there are a couple different ways for them to create an account or sign in using a third party to verify their identity, either Facebook or let me jump back in there.
Right. So that's for the client sign in, and it's a way to make that easier for your clients. So when the client is creating their Zip community account, they can either specify their own username or password, or if they wish, they can sign in and authenticate either through Google or through Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's useful.
Here's a great question from Lorraine. Is it safe to use 4G or 5G if instead of Wi-Fi as far as browsing or exchanging data? Absolutely. If you have a cellular connection as opposed to a Wi-Fi connection on your mobile device, that cellular connection is not prone to exploit from a man-in-the-middle attack, as I described earlier. It's always a good idea. However, if you are out and about, to use a VPN, but your risk profile is dramatically reduced. So just remember to turn off your Wi-Fi in that situation. Okay, so there are a couple of questions regarding how secure is the connection to Google or Facebook. The connection is really for the purpose of authentication, and the authentication, meaning you say who you are, is just as good as Google or Facebook. If your Google or Facebook account is if one's account is compromised and someone has your Google or Facebook credentials, then they could log into the zipForm community using those as well. The only thing that is used with Google or Facebook is just the authentication portion. Everything else is under the security of zipForm. Great question. Very well. We thank you very much for your participation, and I thank Jackson. We don't, especially when we're sheltering at home, we don't often have the opportunity to work together or in concert together, and this was absolutely delightful. And thank you to the North San Diego County Association of Realtors for always making us feel welcome in your local association. All the best to you, and again, thank you for your participation today and your membership. Take care.
Thank you.